what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. I would probably want to issue a trigger warning for some of this BK sound because there is one answer in particular that I know has already been making the rounds. I don't know exactly how they broke it down on yesterday's shows. I'm sure it's not going to be too dissimilar from everybody's reaction when you hear some of these answers. But if you haven't heard the answer yet on kind of the defensive game plan, again, trigger warning, there is going to be a level of what? When you hear it, and I just don't want, like I said, everybody's driving to school, be safe out there on the road, the interstate. I don't want any anger, no road rage, nothing like that. We're moving on to Florida after this. But let's start, and we'll get into Jaden Daniels and everything. God, this answer's so crazy. All right, this is going to be Kelly 4, Mario. That's where we're going to start this thing. And this is a question on whether or not LSU would have done anything different defensively after reviewing the tape.
Could we have spied the quarterback? Absolutely. There were third down situations that, third and long that clearly we felt like we wanted to be in, more coverage, and we felt like our unit pass rush could keep them in the pocket. That did not prove to be the case. I would say that was probably, the number one thing in terms of if we had to do some things coaching-wise differently, we probably would have employed a spy technique.
You know that meme of that kid on the computer who's like, oh, like he's being blown back by the computer? That's how I felt when I heard those sentences uttered yesterday. Now, in a selfish way, it's very validating of our film review, right? I mean, it's what we said yesterday. Like, the most inexplicable part about this entire game plan was a complete lack of a spy, and that every bit of sober analysis that we did in the run-up to the game kind of came with a core caveat and fundamental understanding of you have to spy Milroe and stop his legs first and then account for stopping the explosivity through the air and figuring out how to guard Jermaine Burton and everything. I mean, maybe this situation where, it is literally kind of inexplicable to me how you have, well, actually, that's not true. That's not true. Because I this is okay, it felt inexplicable when I first heard it. How can you have a coaching staff with so many decades of experience, NFL, college, wins, championship, all this stuff, right? This, regardless of what you think, these guys have good resumes. How in the world could you watch your team and watch this team and come to the conclusion that playing coverage and relying on this defensive line, which couldn't even handle KJ Jefferson's legs, that this defensive line was going to somehow contain Jalen Milroe's athletic ability, and that you really needed to watch out for Jalen Milroe's arm? So when I first heard that, I was just shocked. Maybe it's one of those situations where so much that you overcomplicate it, and you try to go full 5-head big brain and come up we're going to zig when they zag or something. Again, so I was a bit, and then okay, let's really try to math it out, because last year against Bryce Young, that's basically all you did was spy him. You just lined up Harold Perkins and said, Harold, don't worry about anything except for like a lion out of the tall grass. When Bryce Young moves, you take off and you go take him down. And I'm like, okay, so why did they do that last year? Same guys, Madhouse. Why did you do that last year and not do that this season? And that's when I'm like, okay, well, the key difference there is the secondary. Going from Jarek Bernard-Covers, Mekhi Gardner, Joe Fouché, Greg Brooks, to now what you have this year. We all know that. And so then you start to math it out, and you see okay, so in my mind, I'm guessing that it was that fear of the personnel on the back end not being able, obviously they didn't trust him in any sort of man situation, right? but it was that fear of the personnel in the back and not being able to hold up that led them to this decision. But even with kind of cobbling together that line of logic, I still feel like somebody in the room needed to be like, but wait, guys, I think we're going too far. Or at least ask the question, what's the lesser of two evils? If Jalen Milroe is going to beat you, how do you want to lose to him? Because that is the question that this LSU defense was essentially asking themselves all week. You knew you weren't going to shut down Milroe. Nobody had any illusions about that. It was, could you do enough? How could you force Jalen Milroe to try to beat you? And it just feels wild to me. And to me, this is also like where it feels inexplicable on the same level of whatever the staff has been doing during camp to evaluate this team as well, where they emerge from camp with just some really head-scratching, fundamental takeaways on who their team is, and they do a great job of fixing it mid-season. But again, they come out the gates and they just think like one thing, and it just feels like the complete opposite. You're like the Harold Perkins linebacker, right? So, yeah, so I don't know how no one spoke up in that room and said, maybe creating a game plan that would work best against a completely immobile pocket passer is not best. Like, yes, we're weak in the secondary. Yes, Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond will probably be able to dominate us if we try to man-on-man them. But like you saw Jalen Milroe miss throws. That's still the weaker part of his game. The most natural and powerful thing for Milroe to do is to just beat you down with his legs. And again, it's the Chinese buffet thing yesterday. You just completely allowed him to. So let's listen to it one more time just so you can really bathe in it a little bit. Would you have done anything differently defensively after the game?
Could we have spied the quarterback? Absolutely. There were third down situations that, third and long that clearly we felt like we wanted to be in, more coverage, and we felt like our unit pass rush could keep him in the pocket. That did not prove to be the case. I would say that was probably, the number one thing in terms of if we had to do some things coaching-wise differently, we probably would have employed a spy technique.
You have Harold Perkins. And after the game against Jalen Milroe, the quote is, if we would have done anything differently, we probably would have applied a spy technique. Guys, that's kind of wild, bro.
The bigger issue I have, which he did not address at the press conference, you had the ability to make that adjustment at halftime. You saw in the first half, Milroe misses, 3-4 wide open deep balls?
Yeah.
And then you're tied. It is 0-0.
Yeah.
You have a 30-minute game. Put a spy on him. They made no adjustments at halftime.
Yeah, no, and to be clear, again, remember, this is all going on. The first third down of the game, you did spy him. You looped Harold Perkins, spied him, that was a good play. I like the design. And you didn't get the stop, but that's fine. It was still, I kind of applaud that. You never did again. And remember, like we broke down yesterday, you had that stretch from the third to the fourth quarter where you were up 28-21, and you had a full quarter where you didn't even force a single third down. And all of a sudden, a quarter later, it's 42-28. On the bookending that, you had 7 consecutive third down conversions. And so within all of that bad, nary an adjustment was made. On these third and longs, just continued to play like cover 3, quarters, cover 2, like just deep, drop everyone, soft zones, no QB spy. But he kind of, here was the answer. This is 5. Were the proper halftime adjustments made?
Look, we have spy within our package. We didn't utilize it in certain situations that, in retrospect, would have been a great call. So, that's not really a halftime adjustment per se. You have that in your plan. That's just a matter of making that call. I remember clearly writing up on the board, for our football team, in the second half was tackling better. We needed better leverage. Our eyes needed to be better. And I felt like if we did those things, we were going to be in good shape. And then from an offensive standpoint, it was, continue to have the balance that we had.
Even worse, like he said, not a halftime adjustment. It's literally just like calling power or calling, a draw. Like it's just a play call. It's just a play call. And obviously Kelly was asked all the questions about Matt House, and he was like, "Look, man, that's like off-season discussion. Like we're not going to get into any of that right now." I feel bad talking about this publicly because it doesn't matter if I have animus or not. if at the end of the day, I'm still saying that I kind of believe that somebody should be fired. At the end of the day, I'm still affecting another human being, their livelihood, their family, everything else. But, I mean, this is just like, it's just a bit inexcusable, especially when you're paid that much money. Like, those answers are kind of absurd, man. Like, you see in all caps here, in retrospect? Like question mark, exclamation mark. Like, I know. Like, me and all the other drunk a-holes at Don Juan who are yelling, come on, go Tro, every time. Like, even we were yelling about spying. Like, everybody was, the most casual of football fans were saying to spy Jalen Milroe. And yet, we have individuals who are paid millions of dollars. And the call wasn't made. And again, it's not to say that you would have stopped him. And not say you would have gone well, not say you would have won. Maybe you go and get the top taken off you, but who cares? Again, if I'm going to force Jalen Milroe, if I'm going to lose Jalen Milroe, I want to lose with him beating me with his arm. Chris Kissinger says, T-Bob sound like a Bama apologist. First Finney Turner, now crapping all over LSU. Great morning, guys. Look, man, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I try to give my honest opinions whenever I can. I've caught a lot of flack for the Dallas Turner thing, but it's what I believe. You know, like I've said a million times, I wish Harold Perkins just caught Jalen Milroe under the jaw and driven him through his sternum, right? I mean, that would you wouldn't have loved that? You would have got pumped up in that? You would have been cheering that? Like, come on now. Let's not tell a lie, Krista. And so in the vein of continue to keep it honest, I can't hear that answer and not be a bit flabbergasted. Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.